Next special order of the day. This is a work plan progress update from the superintendent on the in the area around the effective teaching framework. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following is in response to the superintendent's annual work plan about improving the effective teaching standards, and also an update on the alternative effective teaching pilots, and some review of those processes. Just in note, there may have been some misunderstanding on my part and others regarding whether or not this is a presentation around Teach Tomorrow for Oakland, and I want to assure the board and the public that we will have a thorough and individual review of the Teach Tomorrow for Oakland team and the Teach Tomorrow for Oakland program in our January board meeting. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Associate Superintendent.
I'm sorry, pardon me. Can you just go back over that, because and we've gone through this. I know that this effective superintendent progress report needed to happen. It was said that TTO was going to be embedded still in this report, and then there's also another opportunity to do a second bite at it, or deeper dive. Right. But there still will be some information provided.
Yes, there is. There will be some information, but I wanted to assure people that the information that's presented, which is an overview within the context of this, is not the sum total of the entire TTO report, and that in fact, because that would include so many other different interesting elements for us to learn about. I wanted to be sure that TTO had a full opportunity to present that.
Thanks so much.
Good evening, Directors and Superintendent. Brigitte Marshall, Associate Superintendent for Human Resources, and I'm joined this evening by Kyla Johnson-Trammell, Associate Superintendent for Leadership, Curriculum and Instruction, Aaron Townsend, Director of Strategic School Support in HR, and Tamara Arroyo, Manager of Employee Retention and Development in HR. And together we are presenting this progress report on the Superintendent's work plan. Goal 2A of the Superintendent's, where do I point it? There we go, thank you. Goal 2A of the Superintendent's Work Plan for 2013-14 calls for us to establish a comprehensive educator training, collaboration, and evaluation system. Today's presentation is a progress report on the work completed to date to build this system and an overview of next steps. The presentation has been put together in response to 3 focus questions indicated on this slide. Before addressing the questions, we're quickly going to revisit the components of the educator effectiveness system that many departments across the district are collaborating to build. This cross-departmental work is essential to its ultimate success, because we need to ensure that there is alignment between our respective systems of school, principal, and teacher effectiveness. The school quality review system is to schools what the educator effectiveness system is to teachers and leaders. And building this system is a critically important body of work that is a necessary part of the successful implementation of the Common Core and the next generation science standards. To establish a system that is described by the deliverable for Goal 2A, there are 4 essential components. Firstly, there's the infrastructure, a human capital data management system that can provide real-time data about teaching and leadership performance. Secondly, there are the frameworks. These are the Oakland Effective Teaching Framework and the Oakland Leadership Dimensions, both of which you will hear much more about a little bit later, that define effective teaching and leadership in Oakland. Thirdly, there are our measures, the evaluation systems. The pilots being implemented are designed to contribute to teacher and leader growth and provide valid and reliable data about educator performance based on the frameworks. And finally, there are the supports, professional learning and collaboration opportunities that are provided to teachers and leaders based on the data about their performance and that are aligned to the frameworks. So now we'll move to the first focus question, and Appendix 1 provides a very detailed overview of the Human Capital Data Management System project, but the next 2 slides offer a very brief summary overview of the main features of the project, the current work, and the next steps. What did I do? Did I skip too far? Oh, thank you. Maybe you work that and I'll talk. How about that? We need a comprehensive human capital data management system so that we will be able to identify those pipeline and preparation programs that produce the teachers and leaders who are best positioned to be successful in Oakland with our students. The system will help us know the reasons why teachers and other staff leave OUSD and within what time periods. We anticipate being able to identify our attrition rate by grade level, by school, and by region. None of this we can currently do. It will help us to identify those supports, structures, and conditions that help people stay and be successful. And once we've developed the system, we will know who is scheduled for evaluation and their past evaluation history. It will also provide us with real-time evaluation data so that we can identify and respond to development and support needs and focus our professional growth opportunities. We will know which areas of teaching practice present the most significant challenges for new teachers so that we can prioritize and focus our support efforts. And this next slide is an overview of the process that we've embarked on. A robust human capital data management system is equal parts technology and process. While improving our HR technologies is a multi-year endeavor, we're working now on improving our data management processes with the understanding that a strong data culture will be vital to the success of any new technologies that we purchase. Our current work, and you can see it indicated here on the arrow that is the journey we've embarked on, is to perform a needs analysis of the data that we are currently collecting, the data that is held somewhere but may be hard for us to access currently, and the data that we need but are not currently collecting. We're also establishing the baseline for our data collection practices and assessing data quality. The next step in the project is to define the technology and resource requirements and perform due diligence on potential technology purchases, which will involve meeting with prospective vendors to evaluate their products. By mid-December, we will produce a plan to map out the key steps in this development project over a 5-year period to include projected costs. Simultaneously, we will start the work needed to leverage additional external funding. There is one-time district funding and external funds supporting this work through the end of the 2013-14 school year, but our ability to continue into the implementation phase is, of course, contingent upon ongoing funding.
Good evening. The second question for the Educator Effectiveness Progress Report tonight is about the status and next steps for the principal and teacher evaluation pilots. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the partnership that we have with both the Oakland Education Association and with the United Administrators of Oakland Schools in this work on behalf of the great teachers and principals we have in our district. And this work has only been possible because of those MOUs and agreements that we have with both unions, and we remain committed to developing this work together with them. The role of the evaluation systems in an educator effective system, as described, is to provide data about teacher and leader performance, their strengths and their areas of growth. In service of that, the goals of our pilots are to test different elements of a system to be able to produce that. So our goals related to the implementation of the pilots are to build systems that, in fact, support teacher and leader growth, right? That they experience it as growth activities by participating in the pilot, the evaluation activities, and that provide us the valid and reliable data that we've mentioned to help us inform and direct our supports. As we know and has been discussed in previous sessions, our current evaluation system fails to accomplish either of those goals. Some of the issues that related briefly are that, for example, in the teacher evaluation system, it lacks any criteria to distinguish the different performance levels, which creates significantly unreliable data. We have varying views of what is satisfactory or not satisfactory, so any one recommendation is not clear. Additionally, all of our systems, both the teacher and leader systems, rely on just one individual measure, and thus creating, again, lack of reliability in our data. And historically, though this year we have invested in significantly more training opportunities for evaluators, we have historically not provided much opportunity for training, and thus the experience of teachers and leaders in their evaluation process has not been a meaningful one historically. And lastly, I'll just name, as we know, it's a paper-based system. It doesn't allow us to gather that real-time data to formatively respond to the emerging needs that teachers and leaders may have, and be able to align our professional development. So within the pilots, we are trying to test across the teacher pilots, and within the principal pilot, we are trying to test a few different elements to accomplish some of the best practices that are named here. As we'll talk at length, we'll talk in a moment about the frameworks. So we're utilizing different frameworks that are research-based to help inform our assessment. We're additionally incorporating multiple measures within each of the pilots, which includes additional observers within the teacher evaluation pilots, opportunities for student assessment, and different ways of looking at student achievement results. In your appendix on page 22, on page 22, there's some additional kind of comparison about the different elements of the pilots. As we move through with the implementation of our pilots, we're considering three important criteria in assessing each of the different elements. The main one, of course, is the experience of teachers and leaders in terms of how it contributes to their growth and development. The second is, do the different elements produce data that we feel accurately describes the teacher and leader performance so that we can respond to it effectively and provide the necessary supports and recognize the great practice where it's happening, as we know it is. And then lastly, we're considering notions of how we manage the capacity needed and the issues that might be implicated in terms of trying to expand any of these elements of the pilot if we are able to and move forward with continuing this work at a larger scale.
Hi, good evening. So to accomplish these goals, we are underway with our pilots.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Tamara Arroyo. I'm the Manager of Employee Retention and Development from HR. So to accomplish these goals, we are underway with our pilots. We began recruiting pilot school sites and leaders in August, and there was considerable interest from schools and leaders across the district. We landed with the pilot school sites listed on this slide, and as you know, there are 3 teacher evaluation pilots being implemented in OUSD, and each of the 3 pilots is slightly different. So we're really looking forward to learning from these differences, and you can learn more about the 3 pilots and how they compare to one another in the appendix on page 21. Some of the activities that have already taken place through these pilots are school site trainings, teacher observations, goal setting, and reflection. And you can learn more about the activities to date, again, on page 21 of the appendix. In addition to the pilots, we've launched the collaborative bodies, the Joint Study Committee and the Leadership Task Force, who are charged with collecting data, research, and best practices in order to provide recommendations for moving forward with this work. Both of these collaborative bodies are in partnership with our unions, the Joint Study Committee with our OEA partners, and it's made up of 4 OEA members and 4 district representatives, and the Leadership Task Force with the UAOS, and that's comprised of the 18 participating school principals. An additional central element of the educator effectiveness systems are the frameworks that we use to define excellent teaching and leadership in Oakland. The frameworks are what we measure practice against and how we align our supports. These frameworks have been under development through the Effective Teaching and Leadership Task Forces for the past 3 years, and both are being implemented as a part of the pilot this year. Feedback from teachers and administrators will be used to refine them and to make them relevant and useful tools. The frameworks are designed to ensure the kind of teaching and leadership necessary to help our students achieve the goals defined in the graduate profile. The teaching framework is organized around 4 domains. We are working with a cross-departmental team from LCI, FSCP, AAMA, Linked Learning, and Early Childhood to make sure that it represents the important strategic shifts that are upon us with the Common Core, Next Generation Science Standards, SEL, VRP, and more. Yes?
Excuse me, just because people are watching at home and they may not know all those acronyms, would you mind just backing up and saying what those are?
Sure.
Thank you.
SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. VRP stands for Voluntary Resolution Plan. And those were the 2 acronyms that I used. Were there other ones that, oh, I'm sorry.
You rattled off a whole bunch of
sorry.
departments that
I'm
are,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
It's okay,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
think it would help people
Yep.
follow.
Let's just, as you're just going forward, you don't have to backtrack.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm sorry, I'll make sure, take note taken, thank you. And the leadership framework is organized around 8 dimensions, and we're working with principals in the pilot as well as executive officers to gather feedback to align to our district priorities for leadership. You can actually find copies of both of these frameworks in their entirety in the appendix. On page 48 is the teacher framework, and on page 66 is the principal framework. Thank you.
Hi, and again, I'm Aaron Townsend, Director of Strategic School Support and HR. So from the early stages of implementation of these pilots, we've already identified a few initial successes, some early learnings, and we have clarified our next steps. So briefly, in terms of successes, we've already seen the ability of collecting real-time data about teacher performance and how that's enabled a school site and school sites to be able to shape their professional learning plans and what they're doing in service of supporting their teachers. So there's an example on page 22 in the appendix of a report produced by the online platform from the observations that have been collected at Elmhurst Community Prep over the past year about the data, and it illustrates areas of practice where teachers are strong and areas where there are gaps, and they have shaped their professional learning plan to address those needs. So we're excited about the potential that offers for us to be able to maximize our investment and support resources to really strategically target areas of growth. Additionally, we're excited about just the anecdotal feedback from both leaders and teachers involved in the pilots about the quality of feedback they've received and the consistency of feedback they've received, so that it's in an ongoing way their participation has felt more meaningful and has contributed to their own reflection and growth of their practice. And lastly, again, is called out as one of the measures we're excited about in alignment with our work on behalf of students, of finding interesting opportunities for students to be engaged in these processes. Some of our early learnings kind of reflect the need of what it takes to really roll out these new systems, even at the pilot level. The timelines this year had us rolling this work out in August, as mentioned, and in August really is too late, right? In moving forward, we really need to consider the time necessary to allow school sites to integrate this work into their school plans, to provide the amount of time for training for both leaders and teachers to really deeply understand the frameworks, deeply understand the processes, so that the experiences can be meaningful. Without that, it feels like just another kind of compliance and thing to do. So it's a real important investment. And finally, additionally, just the notion of the role of the observer certification and training, and related how we kind of prioritize time for principals to participate in this work, right? And for teachers to be able to engage in the reflective work necessary. So the certification is really our way to kind of control the quality of observations that happen, and it requires observers to demonstrate skill in being able to collect quality evidence about practice, to be able to rate it accurately, and to be able to deliver effective feedback. And we feel like this is essential if we're going to have a system that allows teachers, and the same is true for evaluators and principals, to be able to create experiences that are meaningful for teachers and leaders, and to be able to give us authentic data. Our next steps, of course, are continuing the implementation of the various components of the pilots. Additionally, at a broader level, we'll be continuing our research and engagement efforts through both the Leadership Task Force and the Joint Study Committee. to identify the learnings and gather input from the participants in the pilot to continue to shape the recommendations that'll come forward. Specifically, I want to call out, as per the MOU and agreements with OEA in terms of the Joint Study Committee, there is just an initial kind of report that the Joint Study Committee is working towards in February, and their final report and recommendations are due in May per the MOU.
Good evening again, Kyla Johnson-Trammell, Associate Superintendent, Leadership, Curriculum, and Instruction. I'm going to focus on, if you can remember, what our superintendent referred to as the donut, which was the visual at the very beginning of the chart, the supports. And so thinking about the question of talent and time. So this is just a visual using my department as an example, but any department can go in here, and we're focusing on certificated for the purposes of this presentation, but certainly when we're talking about talent and time, the same would hold true for classified. And so really thinking about the role of professional learning being about investing in the talent that we already have, as well as thinking about recruitment of talent. And kind of back to the importance of a framework is having an articulated shared understanding of what it means to be effective in an urban school district. And so based on that sense of effectiveness, for a teacher or a leader or any staff wanting to have professional learning that's aligned to that. And so we see the relationship between centralized professional learning and school site professional learning, where both are happening, where centralized professional learning provides teachers and principals opportunities to learn across the district, which we know from research is one small component of retention when people have an opportunity to learn and grow together, and particularly in the instructional department, but also other of our departments, being able to provide and linking schools with top leaders and experts in the field. So right now, in terms of the Common Core, we've been working with Bechtel and the Lawrence Hall of Science, Columbia Teachers College in New York, and sending groups of teachers and schools there to deepen content knowledge, which is an ever-going, ongoing process as an educator. But also this notion, which I think aligns with the site-based governance policy that we have, of that in order for students to learn, there needs to be a strong collaborative culture at the site and strong site-based professional learning, that undoubtedly the principal is leading with their teachers, but that there is room for benefit to be learning across the district. And I would say, even though I'm focusing on the content being instruction, we also know a huge part of our plan is also the content being building safe and supportive environments in the classroom and in the school. So the content can very much be how we're building caring relationships with parents and with students. So in terms of linking talent with time, if you look at the first column where it says focus areas, again, one of the values of a framework is to really call out what do we value in terms of effectiveness in our staff. And so obviously our core function is student learning, but part of having the voluntary resolution plan and other key parts of our strategic plan is realizing that without a safe environment where students feel cared for, it's very challenging to get to the learning. And so really looking at this piece of socio-emotional learning and diversity and cultural competency piece, along with the obvious focus on our Common Core standards and next generation science standards, is key in terms of really reaching our students. We also wanted to call out just the conditions, recognizing that when we think about our middle school math teachers, science teachers, special education teachers, and schools and very hard to staff areas, whether we're talking about our three McClymans, or our kind of three areas of focus for high school, McClymans, Fremont, and Castlemont, or elementary schools like Reach, that we need to have some strategies around making sure that we can recruit talent to those schools and thinking creatively and outside of the box. And again, I'm going to hand it over to Brigitte to talk a little bit about strategic recruitment and BITSA, and then I'll be back to finish walking you through the slide.
The HR department has crafted a number of targeted recruitment strategies in an effort to ensure that we're bringing into the district individuals with the focus areas, knowledge, skills, abilities, and dispositions needed to serve our students well. For the past 6 years, HR's recruitment efforts have been focused on increasing the diversity of our teaching force and ensuring that we have a qualified teacher in every classroom for the start of school and throughout the school year. Additionally, this year, we started the practice of offering early contract signing opportunities for prospective teachers with credentials in our traditionally hard-to-staff subject areas, including math, science, and special education. We are exploring opportunities to develop teacher residency programs as an additional training and certification route. In 2012, one of our partner pipeline programs, Teach for America, made a dramatic shift in its recruitment philosophy. While still focused on recruiting young professionals who are prepared to make at least a 2-year commitment to teaching in hard-to-staff subject areas, TFA has developed a new approach that concentrates additional recruitment efforts in the Greater Bay Area and on targeted recruitment of teachers of color in order to be aligned with our focus on building a teaching force that represents the students in our schools. Since 2009, Teach Tomorrow in Oakland has been implementing a recruitment strategy focused on local applicants who represent the diversity of Oakland students. TTO will be making a presentation to the Board of Education on January 15th, at which time they will provide a comprehensive overview of their work and its impact. In the appendices of this presentation, recruitment pipeline data for the 2013-14 school year is presented on page 24. The knowledge, skills, abilities, and dispositions of individuals recruited into our district are developed through professional learning and collaboration opportunities, as listed on the middle column of this slide. On page 27 of the appendices, there is a matrix of the supports available to new teachers. The TTO program, which is supported through federal grant funding and district funds, provides a comprehensive array of services that include development of TTO candidates from 1 year of pre-service support all the way through BITSA completion. The program also provides tutoring and fee support opportunities in preparation for the California Basic Educational Skills Test, which is a requirement for all teachers, and the California Subject Examinations for teachers, which most teachers holding a single subject credential must pass. Additionally, TTO provides in-class coaching and monthly professional development sessions for teachers in all of their cohorts. On page 25 of the appendices, there is a slide that provides some data about current TTO-supported teachers. And again, the board will have the opportunity to hear much greater detail about the program itself on January 15th. Just a few words about BITSA. The BITSA program is a support program for teachers who have a preliminary credential. It provides one-on-one mentoring with an accomplished teacher. It is the avenue for teachers to earn their clear credential, and placement in the program is prioritized by credential expiration. There is currently a waiting list for our BITSA program.
So just to highlight some of the other investments that we have in our talent is, I guess to parallel the BITSA program, our principal mentoring program, which actually was established as a recommendation out of the leadership task force that was started 3 years ago. And I'm not sure which page it is in your appendix, but I think there's some photos of some principals who are in the mentoring program, as well as just some quotes in terms of what they're getting out of having a mentor, as well as centralized professional learning. Again, absolute value in sites, having control and having quality school-based professional learning, but also there being value in bringing people together across schools. And the professional critical friends, which is another recommendation out of the leadership task force, which is now embedded within the principal professional learning, where principals are paired together to think about their goal setting in terms of their own leadership goals in relation to their school improvement goals. So again, all of these things represent some of the current investments that we're making in talent. And again, back to the visual at the beginning, our hope is to work towards having a system where the recruitment and the investments and the evaluations is aligned. So my hope is for centralized professional learning, that whatever feedback we're getting from evaluations, if there's certain trends around what all new teachers need, that we're using that data to make centralized professional learning more relevant. So that's the hope in terms of having the human capital database, that we're really able to get timely data so that we can make smarter decisions around resource allocation and really supporting principals and teachers with what they need so they can better serve our children. And in terms of needs, I kind of just spoke to the first, it's not really a bullet because there's no bullet, but the first statement on the right-hand side. But really what's come up over and over again, there's always the resource of money, but this resource of time. And I'll give you an example. I had an email from a principal not that long ago saying, we appreciate the professional learning, but you're killing me pulling teachers from the classroom. And so we were having this email exchange saying, while it's important for teachers to be able to have learning and principles that we're running against, there's not enough time for the investment that we need to do. And so the work that needs to be done to be a better observer, to be a better deliverer of content, to really understand all the different things you have to do as a leader in Oakland. For all you know, being a leader of a school in Oakland is not for the faint-hearted. We need to think about time and creatively how we're increasing the amount of professional learning time. So that's come up as a definite need that we need to think about. And also what's come up, not just in terms of instructional coaching, but thinking about how we can have more coaches on site, really transitioning to the Common Core and the next generation science standards, which is a lot of rethinking of work. We're talking a lot about personalized learning and really integrating that into our teaching and learning, and also really thinking about the notion of mental health in our schools and RJ practices, and really schools needing some more direct coaching to figure out the how around implementation. And so that's come up as a major recommendation and as a need. And we've talked a lot between LCI and HR around kind of seen as like a fundamental of equity is really having a clear strategy around how are we recruiting some of our best and brightest to our most challenging schools, and something that I think we need to grapple with together. And lastly, just to end, again, I think part of why we're seeing the need of working on this, it's not just HR's work or LCI's work. We've had parents involved in this, some students and teachers and principals, is that for us to really have a clear sense of what we're doing and be smarting about the investments. I know I'm kind of repeating this, but it being like the main focus of this presentation is that the alignment of the entire system is extremely important. So we hope that our presentation has given you an update on where we are, and obviously much more work to be done. Thank you. We're open for questions, I guess.